The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with 1,000 different voices. Ambassador adjusted his water-breathing apparatus and watched the crowd through large, fish-like eyes. His blue-scaled skin glistened under the artificial lights as he moved through the sea of alien beings toward his old friend. Counselor stood near the central viewing platform. The old crystalline being's body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across nearby walls. His species, could live for over 2,000 years, had seen more galactic history than most beings alive. "My old friend," said in the common trade language, "how goes the mining dispute in Sector 7? Turned, his crystal face forming what might have been a smile. "Thee and the have agreed to share the asteroid fields. No blood spilled this time. Small victories." "Indeed, though I hear the Federation wants to expand their territory again. They eye the Outer Rim systems." "They may look all they wish. The Outer Rim has been peaceful for 3 centuries. Let us hope it stays that way." A young assistant swam up to them. His name was, and this was his first posting to the Galactic Council. His excitement showed in the rapid movement of his gill slits. "Counselor, Ambassador, forgive me for interrupting," the young being said. "I have been studying the territorial maps. There is a vast region called the Sol Exclusion Zone. It contains dozens of worlds rich in rare minerals. Why does no one mine there? It seems like a waste of resources." The conversation around them died. Delegates from a dozen species turned to stare at the young. An Hiver diplomat clicked his mandibles nervously. A furry trader took several steps backward. Felt his heart skip a beat. He whispered urgently, "You must never speak of such things." "But why? The zone has been marked as off-limits for over 300 years. Surely whatever danger existed is gone by now." Placed a crystal hand on the young being's shoulder. His ancient voice carried clearly through the suddenly quiet hall. "Sit with us, young one. There are lessons you must learn before you suggest such dangerous ideas again." They moved to a private alcove away from the crowd. Other delegates watched them go, shaking heads or making nervous gestures. Several older beings touched protective charms or whispered prayers. "The Sol Exclusion Zone exists for one simple reason," began. "It is the home territory of the humans." "Humans?" asked. "I have heard stories, but I thought they were myths, ancient legends from before space travel." "No myth," said grimly. "They are real, and they are the reason for the first law of galactic civilization." "What law?" Leaned forward, his crystal eyes glowed with inner light. "Never rouse the humans." The young looked confused. "But why? Are they powerful warriors? Do they have advanced weapons?" "Those are the wrong questions," said. "The right question is, what happened to the last empire that decided to test them?" "Waited." 312 years ago, the Empire was the greatest military power in known space. They controlled over 400 worlds. Their fleet numbered in the millions. They had conquered every enemy they faced for over 6 centuries. I remember reading about them in the archives. What happened to their empire? It no longer exists. You mean it collapsed? Civil war, economic failure? No, said quietly, it simply vanished. Nodded slowly. They discovered the humans during routine exploration. A young species, they thought, only one world, no great fleet, no vast armies. They decided to conquer them. And the war lasted 6 months. When it ended, every world was empty. Not destroyed, you understand, empty. As if every living being had simply disappeared. Their ships drift in space as ghost vessels. Their cities stand silent. Gill slits fluttered nervously. Where did they go? No one knows. No one dares to ask. But surely the humans would explain. The humans to their home system after the war explained. They sealed their borders. They made only one statement to the galaxy: leave us alone and we will leave you alone. Most civilizations considered this the greatest bargain in galactic history, added. Trade is allowed through automated stations at the edge of their territory. They provide certain technologies in exchange for raw materials, but no being has entered the Sol system in 3 centuries. Was quiet for a long moment. What do the humans look like? Bipedal, about 2 meters tall. They have 4 limbs like but no fur. Their skin comes in many colors. They are not particularly strong or fast compared to other species. Then how did they defeat and exchanged glances. That is what makes them so frightening, the old said. We do not know. The survivors of the war speak of impossible things, added. Ships that appeared from nowhere. Weapons that destroyed entire fleets without leaving wreckage. Strategies that made no sense until after they had already won. Some say the humans are natural warriors, continued. Others believe they have weapons beyond our understanding. A few think they can control time itself. What do you believe? The old crystal being was quiet for a long time. I was young when the war happened. I watched the news feeds. I saw the fleet launch for human space with great ceremony. Millions of ships, the most powerful army ever assembled. And 6 months later, I watched a single human vessel arrive at Nexus Prime. It carried the only surviving, their emperor. He was alive but broken. He spoke only one warning before he died. Never wake the sleeping giants. They are far more dangerous than they appear. Shivered, and no one has tried to contact them since. A few have suggested it over the centuries, said. Those suggestions are quickly silenced by the older delegates who remember. The humans keep their word, added. They do not expand beyond their borders. They do not threaten anyone. They simply exist in their distant corner of the galaxy, and in return we give them space. But what if they wanted to expand? What if they changed their minds? Stood up slowly. That, young one, is why every species in the galaxy follows the first law. We do not want to find out what would happen if the humans decided they needed more space. As they prepared to return to the main hall, asked one final question. How do we know they are still there, in the Sol system? Smiled grimly. Because the automated trading stations still function. Because our deep space monitors sometimes detect their ships moving between their worlds. And because every few years, someone foolish suggests testing them, and mysterious accidents seem to happen to their ships before they reach human space. The humans are still watching, concluded. They have never stopped watching, and that perhaps is the most frightening thing of all. They walked back into the crowded hall where hundreds of species conducted their business, all of them following one simple rule that kept the galaxy peaceful: never rouse the humans. The war room aboard the flagship Conquest was a monument to power. Massive screens showed star maps covering 3 galactic arms. Red markers indicated worlds under control. In just 50 years, the hegemony had grown from a single planet to an empire spanning hundreds of systems. Supreme stood before the largest display. His reptilian form towered over his advisors. Scales the color of old bronze covered his 7-foot frame. His yellow eyes held the cold intelligence that had conquered 17 civilizations. Show me the expansion reports, he commanded. Fleet Admiral Eth activated the holographic display. She was smaller than but equally impressive. Battle scars marked her green scales. She had personally led the conquest of 6 worlds. The Federation surrendered yesterday, she reported. Their industrial worlds are now under our control. The consortium has agreed to our terms. They will provide resources in exchange for protection. Good, what of the systems? Complete submission. Their fleet has been integrated into our forces. Nodded with satisfaction. Each victory had been swift and decisive. The way was simple: offer surrender or face destruction. Most civilizations chose surrender. Sir, a younger officer spoke up. Captain or was eager to prove himself. Our scouts have mapped new sectors beyond space, rich systems with minimal defenses. Show me. The star map shifted. New regions appeared in blue light. Dozens of promising worlds marked for future conquest. Excellent resources, or continued. But there is something odd. A large region marked as forbidden by all species we have encountered. His eyes narrowed. Forbidden by whom? They call it the Sol exclusion zone. Every species treats it as completely off-limits. Admiral Eth stepped closer to the display. She had heard whispers about this region during intelligence briefings with captured enemies. What prevents expansion there? Asked. According to our sources, a species called humans, or replied. But the information is strange. They are described as primitives who control only a handful of worlds. Studied the display. The Sol exclusion zone covered vast areas of space, systems rich in rare minerals and strategic positions. It made no sense for such resources to remain untouched. How many humans are there? Approximately 4 billion on their home world. Perhaps a few million more spread across 3 or 4 colonies. And their military strength. Or consulted his data pad. Unknown. The last major conflict involving humans happened over 3 centuries ago. Since then, they have remained isolated. Admiral Eth frowned. Something felt wrong about this information. Sir, perhaps we should proceed carefully. The other species seem genuinely afraid of humans. Turn to face her. Afraid? The fear no one. We have defeated enemies with billions of soldiers and thousands of warships. Why should we fear a handful of primitives hiding on one world? The intelligence reports mention something about the Empire, she continued. They supposedly vanished after fighting the humans. Supposedly, repeated. Legends and myths. They probably destroyed themselves in civil war. Their enemies blamed the humans to create fear. Captain or pulled up historical files. The records are incomplete, sir, but it appears they controlled hundreds of worlds before the war. After the war, all their territory was empty. Empty worlds are perfect for colonization, said dismissively. We will investigate these human claims. If they resist, we will demonstrate why the galaxy bows to power. An older advisor stepped forward. General K had served the hegemony for 40 years. Gray touched his scales, marking his age and experience. Might I suggest caution? Every species we have conquered warns about the humans. Perhaps there is truth to their fears. His yellow eyes flashed with anger. General, your caution has served us well in the past, but fear of myths will not expand our empire. We have superior technology, better tactics, and stronger will. What can one primitive world do against the might of the hegemony? He turned to address the entire room. For 50 years, we have proven that strength conquers all. The galaxy has learned to respect power. Now we will test whether these humans deserve their fearsome reputation. Admiral Eth requested permission to speak. What do you propose, sir? A test. We will capture one of their vessels, interrogate the crew, learn their capabilities. If they prove weak, we expand into their territory. If they show strength, we can always negotiate from a position of power. Captain or smiled. A colony ship would be perfect. Civilians would provide good intelligence without military complications. Exactly. Eth, prepare a small fleet. Nothing too aggressive. We do not want to appear threatening. The admiral hesitated. Sir, if the humans are as dangerous as the legends suggest, then we will discover that fact safely and adjust our plans accordingly, interrupted. But I suspect we will find them to be another minor species hiding behind ancient reputation. General K made one final attempt. Every species in the galaxy follows one rule: never provoke the humans. Perhaps that rule exists for good reason. Laughed, a sound like grinding stone. General, the galaxy is full of rules made by the weak to control the strong. We have broken many such rules and grown powerful because of it. He activated the strategic planning system. We will intercept a human civilian vessel within the next 10 days. Our intelligence network reports a colony ship called New Horizon traveling to their outer settlements. Sir, or said, should we attempt communication first, offer terms? Humans have ignored all diplomatic contact for centuries, replied. They clearly believe isolation makes them safe. We will show them that isolation makes them vulnerable. Admiral Eth began planning the operation despite her misgivings. 3 fast cruisers would be sufficient to overwhelm a civilian transport. The mission seemed simple enough. What if the humans send military support? She asked. From where? Their nearest base is weeks away. By the time they respond, we will have learned everything we need to know. General K requested permission to withdraw. He had opposed this plan as strongly as he dared. Now he could only hope his fears were groundless. Sir, if you are determined to proceed, might I suggest taking additional precautions? Perhaps monitoring stations at the edge of human space. Unnecessary, decided. This is a simple intelligence operation. 3 ships against 1 civilian transport. What could possibly go wrong? As the meeting ended, Admiral Eth reviewed the mission parameters. Everything seemed straightforward, yet unease gnawed at her. In all their conquests, the hegemony had never faced an enemy that inspired universal fear across hundreds of species. 3 days later, the task force departed for human space. Their mission proved that the most feared species in the galaxy was nothing more than an ancient myth. Supreme watched their departure with satisfaction. Soon, the galaxy would learn that strength could overcome any legend. The humans would either submit or serve as an example to others who relied on reputation instead of real power. He had no idea that he had just made the greatest mistake in galactic history. The message reached Earth at 14:32 GMT on a Tuesday that would be remembered forever. Captain Maria Santos of the colony ship New Horizon had managed to transmit only a few words before communications went dark. Hegemony has taken us. Colony ship New Horizon. Approximately 50,000 souls. Within minutes, alarms sounded in government buildings across Earth. The Emergency Council convened in the deepest bunker beneath Geneva. President Sarah arrived first, followed rapidly by military leaders who had hoped never to use their real training. Admiral entered the secure conference room still wearing his civilian clothes. For 30 years, he had served as head of the Terran Defense Force, a position most citizens assumed was ceremonial. His weathered face showed the weight of knowledge few humans carried. Confirm the message, President ordered. Through 3 separate channels, replied General Lisa Park, Director of Intelligence. The intercepted New Horizon 4 hours ago in neutral space. No response to our communication attempts. Defense Secretary James Wright pulled up galactic maps on the main screen. The hegemony has expanded rapidly over the past 50 years. They control 300 systems through military conquest. President studied the tactical display. She had been briefed on this possibility during her security clearance, but had hoped it would never become reality. How long since anyone has tested us? 114 years, Admiral replied. 3 raiders tried to capture a mining vessel near Pluto. They were quietly discouraged. And before that? The 312 years ago. The room fell silent. Every person present knew what had happened to the Empire. More importantly, they knew why it had happened. General Park activated the secure communication system. Sir, I need to contact the Shadow Fleet commanders. President nodded grimly. Issue the activation codes. For over 3 centuries, humanity had maintained the illusion of peaceful isolation. The galaxy believed humans were simple farmers and traders who happened to control a few star systems. This belief was carefully maintained and absolutely false. Admiral began the briefing that would change galactic history. Ladies, and it's time to wake up. General Park, status on our actual military assets. Mars Command reports full readiness. The Hidden Fleet has 1,247 vessels ranging from corvettes to dreadnoughts. All ships are equipped with technology the galaxy has never seen. Defense Secretary Wright added details that would terrify any alien spy lucky enough to hear them. The asteroid belt contains 847 automated defense platforms. Each platform can eliminate capital ships at ranges of 3 light minutes. What about our intelligence network? President asked. Complete surveillance of all major galactic powers, General Park replied. We know their fleet positions, military capabilities, political structures, and economic weaknesses. The hegemony was thoroughly mapped 60 years ago. Admiral smiled without humor. We have detailed plans for defeating every significant military force in the galaxy, updated monthly. The truth was simple and terrifying. While the galaxy believed humans were peaceful isolationists, humanity had actually spent 3 centuries preparing for the next war. Every human child learned strategy alongside mathematics. Every colony world contained hidden military facilities. Every merchant ship could transform into a warship within hours. Time for deployment, the President asked. The response fleet can reach space in 48 hours, Admiral replied. Full battle groups will be in position within 1 week. And our colonies? Already, colonial defense forces are activating. The base will coordinate rescue operations. President stood up and walked to the window overlooking Lake Geneva. The peaceful scene below would remain unchanged, but the galaxy would never be the same. Ladies, we knew this day might come. For over 300 years, we have honored our promise to leave the galaxy alone if they left us alone. Today, that promise was broken. She turned to face the room. The hegemony has taken 50,000 of our people. This cannot stand. Admiral waited for orders he had drilled for his entire career. Ma'am, what are our objectives? Primary, rescue our people. Secondary, ensure this never happens again. Rules of engagement. President was quiet for a long moment. Minimal civilian casualties. Maximum demonstration of capability. We want the galaxy to remember why they fear us, not hate us. Defense Secretary Wright understood immediately. Surgical strikes, remove military assets, leave infrastructure intact. Exactly. We'll learn what they learned. The galaxy will be reminded why the Sol exclusion zone exists. General Park began issuing orders to commanders who had waited generations for this moment. Shadow Fleet Alpha will handle rescue operations. Shadow Fleet Beta will demonstrate our capabilities to the military. What about the Galactic Council? Wright asked. We'll send an observer, President decided. Ambassador Harrison has been briefed on this scenario. He'll explain what's happening after we've finished. Admiral pulled up deployment schedules. The TDF Retribution is closest to the intercept point. Captain commands the vessel. I remember her file. She's perfect for this mission. Ma'am, there's something else, General Park said quietly. Our long-range sensors detected the task force 3 days before they reached New Horizon. President turned sharply. We knew they were coming. Yes, we allowed them to proceed. Why? Admiral answered. Because we needed them to make the first move. For 3 centuries, we've maintained peace through isolation. That strategy required someone else to break the rules first. And now they have. The galaxy will witness the consequences of threatening humanity. After today, no one will test us again for another 300 years. Orders flowed outward from the buried conference room. On Mars, massive shipyards opened hidden bays. In the asteroid belt, Defense platforms powered up weapons that could crack planets. On Luna, artificial intelligences began calculating the movements of every vessel in real time. The merchant ship Peaceful Trader near Jupiter transformed into the heavy cruiser Vengeance. The research station at Saturn revealed itself as a forward command base. Throughout human space, the facade of peaceful isolation fell away. President issued the final command that would remind the galaxy why humans were feared. Initiate Protocol 7, full retrieval and demonstration. 6 hours after the New Horizon disappeared, the first human warship near space. Captain of the TDF Retribution studied the tactical display showing the enemy fleet holding her people prisoner. Communications, open a channel to the commander. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain of the Terran Defense Force vessel Retribution. You are holding 50,000 human civilians. Return them immediately. The reply came from Supreme himself. This is of the hegemony. Your people are now prisoners of war. Surrender your vessel or they will suffer. Captain looked at her tactical officer. Number of vessels. 17 ships, Captain. 3 heavy cruisers, 8 destroyers, 6 frigates. Analysis. Their weapons are approximately 60 years behind our current technology. Their shields cannot stop our penetrators. Their targeting systems are too slow to track our movements. Captain smiled the same cold smile Admiral had shown in the bunker. Vessels, you have 30 seconds to release our people and withdraw. This is your only warning. Impossible, replied. You are 1 ship against 17. Surrender now or we will destroy you. 20 seconds. Human arrogance will be your destruction. All vessels target the human ship. 10 seconds. The fleet opened fire. Energy beams and missiles filled space where the Retribution had been, but the human ship was no longer there. Captain had just demonstrated why the galaxy feared humanity. The real war was about to begin. The TDF Retribution materialized behind the flagship like a ghost becoming solid. Supreme stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The human ship had been directly ahead of his fleet. Now it sat motionless 50 meters from his command bridge. How is this possible? He demanded. Admiral Eth frantically checked her sensors. Sir, our targeting systems never detected movement. The human ship simply vanished and reappeared. Fire all weapons. The flagship erupted with energy. Plasma cannons and missile launchers poured destruction at point-blank range. The space around the Retribution filled with deadly fire. When the weapons stopped, the human ship remained undamaged. Its hull didn't even show scorch marks. Captain's voice filled the bridge through their communication system. You have just demonstrated why your species should fear mine. Your most powerful weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your sensors cannot track our movements. Your tactical systems cannot predict our actions. Impossible, growled. No defense is perfect. You are correct. Our defenses are not perfect. They are simply far beyond your ability to overcome. The Retribution moved again. This time, the sensors tracked the movement but could not comprehend it. The human ship seemed to phase through solid matter, passing directly through a destroyer without damaging either vessel. Sir, a terrified sensor operator reported, the human ship is using some form of dimensional manipulation. It exists partially outside normal space. Captain continued her demonstration. We will now disable your fleet. Please observe carefully so you can report these events to your superiors. The first destroyer simply stopped working. Its engines shut down. Its weapons powered off. Its shields collapsed. The ship drifted helplessly but showed no damage and no casualties. What did they do? Eth whispered. The second destroyer suffered the same fate. Then the third. One by one, every vessel lost power without any visible attack. In 15 minutes, 17 warships became floating metal shells. We have electronically disabled your fleet, Captain explained calmly. "Your crews are unharmed. Your life support systems continue to function, but your military capabilities no longer exist." Felt fear for the first time in his adult life. "What do you want?" "The immediate release of our civilians. Then we want you to observe what happens to military forces that threaten humanity." The cargo bay of the colony ship New Horizon opened. 50,000 human civilians began transferring to the Retribution in small shuttles. The process took 2 hours. During that time, the crew sat in their disabled ships and waited. "Transfer complete," Captain reported. "Our people are safe. Now you will learn why the galaxy fears us." Space around the disabled fleet began to shimmer. Slowly, more human ships became visible. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The entire region filled with vessels that had been hidden by technology that could not comprehend. Admiral Eth counted the ships until she lost track. "Sir, there are over 5,000 human vessels surrounding us." "That is correct," Captain confirmed. "And this is only our local response force." From the bridge of the massive dreadnought Avalanche, Admiral opened communications with all forces. "This is Admiral of the Terran Defense Force. You are about to witness why your species should not have awakened humanity." The demonstration began across space simultaneously. Human fleets appeared in orbit around every military world, not to destroy, but to disable with surgical precision. On the fortress world of Prime, defense platforms that had never been defeated simply turned off. Orbital shipyards lost power. Command bunkers found their communication systems non-functional. Not one civilian was harmed, but the entire military infrastructure became useless metal. The pattern repeated on world after world. Weapons factories shut down. Military academies lost their computer systems. Training facilities went dark. In less than 72 hours, the hegemony's ability to wage war disappeared. Admiral broadcast on all frequencies so every species in the galaxy could hear. "This is why the galaxy fears us, not because we are monsters but because we are precise. We do not miss, we do not fail, and we never ever forgive threats to our people." The tactical display on its bridge showed the impossible scope of the human response. Red markers indicated military assets. As he watched, every marker turned gray, signifying complete neutralization. "How?" he asked weakly. Captain answered with cold professionalism. "For 3 centuries, we have watched and prepared. We know the location of every military asset in your empire. We know the specifications of every weapon system you possess. We know the names and families of every officer in your fleet. But we expanded across hundreds of worlds. How could you know everything?" "Because we are very good at watching, and we are very patient." The truth was more terrifying than could imagine. While the thought they were expanding and conquering, humanity had been observing every move. Human intelligence agents had infiltrated every level of society. Human spy satellites had mapped every military installation. When they captured the New Horizon, they hadn't just taken hostages. They had triggered a response that had been planned and prepared for decades. Admiral's voice filled space with authority that crossed species barriers. "The hegemony will continue to exist. Your civilian populations are unharmed. Your merchant fleets may continue trading, but your military forces no longer have the ability to threaten anyone." "What do you want from us?" asked. "Nothing. We want nothing from you except one simple promise. You will never again threaten human civilians." "And if we refuse?" The question hung in space for a long moment. When Captain answered, her voice carried the weight of 3 centuries of preparation. "Then you will join in whatever realm awaits species that cannot learn from history." Thought of the empty worlds where a mighty empire had once ruled. Planets stripped of all life. Ships drifting as monuments to the folly of challenging humanity. No one knew exactly what had happened to the Now he understood that no one was meant to know. "We accept your terms," he said quietly. "Good. You have 48 hours to communicate these events to your government. After that, human observers will be stationed at key points throughout your territory, not to govern you but to ensure you remember this lesson." The human fleet began to fade from view as cloaking systems reactivated. Within minutes, only the Retribution remained visible. Captain issued final instructions. "Your ships will be restored to partial power in 1 hour, enough to return to your territory and report what you have witnessed. Remember what you have learned here." As the Retribution disappeared into empty space, sat in his command chair and tried to comprehend what had happened. In less than 4 days, the mighty hegemony had been reduced to a toothless civilian government. Admiral Eth broke the silence. "Sir, how do we explain this to the High Command?" Thought of his proud speeches about testing the human myth. He remembered his certainty that no single world could threaten a galactic empire. Now he understood why every species in the galaxy followed one simple rule. "We tell them the truth," he said finally. "We tell them that some sleeping giants should never be awakened." The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 6 days after the incident. Representatives from 400 species filled the Great Hall on Nexus Prime. For the first time in 3 centuries, a human delegate sat among them. Ambassador Dr. James Harrison adjusted his simple gray suit and observed the nervous energy that filled the chamber. Conversations died as beings noticed his presence. Some stared openly. Others whispered prayers or touched protective charms. Counselor called the session to order. The ancient's crystal form reflected the tension in the room. "We gather to address recent events in space. Ambassador Harrison, the Council recognizes the representative of humanity." Harrison stood slowly. His unremarkable appearance, average height, brown hair, calm expression, somehow made him more unsettling to the alien delegates. This ordinary-looking being represented the species that had just dismantled a galactic empire in 3 days. "Honorable counselors, I bring greetings from Earth and regrets that our isolation has ended under these circumstances." The delegate, a furry creature named L, raised a trembling paw. "Ambassador Harrison, what has become of the hegemony?" "The people continue their lives unchanged. Their civilian government remains in power. Their merchant fleets operate normally. However, their military capabilities have been permanently reduced." Ambassador of the spoke next. His blue-scaled face showed the confusion felt by many in the chamber. "Reduced how? Our sensors detect no destruction, no debris fields, no mass casualties." Harrison consulted a simple data pad. The military possessed 1,847 warships, 423 orbital defense platforms, 67 weapons manufacturing facilities, and 12 major command centers. All of these assets have been rendered non-functional. "Destroyed?" asked the Hiver representative. "No, disabled. The ships remain intact but powerless. The defense platforms are undamaged but inoperative. The factories and command centers function for civilian purposes but can no longer support military operations." A murmur swept through the assembly. Several delegates requested clarification on how such precise results were possible. Harrison waited for quiet before continuing. "My government wishes to address certain misconceptions about humanity that may have developed during our isolation." The hall fell completely silent. For the past 3 centuries, many species have assumed that humans chose isolation because we feared conflict. This assumption was incorrect. We chose isolation because we feared ourselves. Leaned forward. "Can you explain this statement?" "The destruction of the Empire taught us that our military capabilities posed a danger to galactic civilization. We not from weakness, but from responsibility." Young of the, now several years older and wiser, asked the question many wanted answered. What really happened to the? Harrison was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of absolute truth. They made the same mistake as the. They believed that superior numbers and advanced weapons could overcome human determination. But where did they go? They were given the same choice we offered the. Cease military operations against humanity or face complete elimination. Unlike the, they chose to escalate. And so they were destroyed. They were removed, completely. Every trace of their civilization was systematically erased from existence. This required approximately 6 months of sustained effort. The chamber erupted in shocked conversations. The clinical way Harrison described genocide was perhaps more frightening than the act itself. Counselor called for order. Ambassador Harrison, are you saying that humans possess the ability to eliminate entire civilizations? Yes, however, we prefer not to use this capability. Why spare the when you eliminated the? Harrison showed something that might have been a sad smile. Because they gave us no choice. They interpreted mercy as weakness and continued their attacks until complete response became necessary. We hoped they would prove wiser. And they did. Accepted our terms. His empire survives because he chose survival over pride. Ambassador L asked the question that terrified every species present. What does humanity want from the galaxy now? The same thing we have wanted for 3 centuries, to be left alone. But you are here. You have revealed your true capabilities. Surely this changes everything. Harrison nodded slowly. It changes one thing. The period of grace is over. Grace. For 3 centuries, we overlooked minor provocations. Ships that entered our space were quietly turned away. Aggressive species were discouraged through accidents and system failures. We allowed the galaxy to maintain the comfortable fiction that humans were peaceful farmers. And now the galaxy has seen what happens when that fiction is tested. There will be no more warnings, no more second chances. Any species that threatens human civilians will face immediate and total response. The trade representative, an elderly female named Rouse, spoke up. What about trade, commerce, normal diplomatic relations? These will continue as before, but with human observers present at major galactic facilities. We will monitor compliance with certain basic standards. What standards? Harrison activated a holographic display that showed legal documents. The Galactic Accords for the Protection of Civilians, the Universal Declaration of Species Rights, the Treaty on Limitations of Military Expansion. Studied the documents with growing amazement. These are comprehensive peace agreements covering every aspect of interstellar relations. When were these drafted? Over the past 3 centuries, we used our isolation to develop frameworks for lasting galactic peace. You wrote treaties for the entire galaxy without consulting anyone. We consulted everyone. Through intelligence networks, cultural exchanges, economic analysis, and direct observation. We know your species better than you know yourselves. The horrifying truth became clear to every delegate present. Humanity had spent 300 years studying every aspect of galactic civilization. They knew the strengths and weaknesses of every species, the location of every resource, the dynamics of every political system. Ambassador asked the final question that would reshape galactic politics. Are we to understand that humans now rule the galaxy? Harrison shook his head. We have no interest in ruling anyone, but we will ensure that certain minimum standards of behavior are maintained. And if species refuse to accept these standards, then they will join thee in whatever realm awaits civilizations that cannot coexist peacefully with their neighbors. The session ended with the formal acceptance of the Galactic Accords. Every species signed without debate. The alternative was too terrible to consider. As delegates filed out of the chamber, conversations carried a new tone. The galaxy had just learned that the most feared species in existence had been restraining themselves for 3 centuries. The incident had not been an act of aggression, but a demonstration of mercy. 6 months later, Ambassador Harrison observed a very different galactic council. Territorial disputes were resolved through negotiation. Military buildups had ended across dozens of civilizations. Trade flowed more freely than ever before. In a quiet moment, Counselor approached the human representative. "Ambassador, may I ask a personal question?" "Of course." "Do you ever wonder what the galaxy would be like if humans had chosen expansion instead of isolation?" Harrison considered the question carefully. "Every day. That is why we chose isolation. And now we have responsibilities we cannot escape. The galaxy has seen our capabilities. We must ensure these capabilities are never needed again." The old nodded slowly. "The other species are beginning to understand, not just that you are powerful, but why you are feared." "Which is?" "Because you combine absolute power with perfect restraint. You could conquer everything, but choose to protect instead. This makes you more dangerous than any tyrant." Harrison smiled genuinely for the first time since arriving at Nexus Prime. Then, perhaps the galaxy is finally ready for lasting peace. As he prepared to leave, offered one final observation. "The young ones are learning a new version of the first law. Oh, never give humans a reason to wake up." Harrison walked through the halls where representatives from hundreds of worlds conducted their business, all of them following rules written by the species they feared most, all of them grateful that humanity preferred peace to conquest. The sleeping giants had awakened briefly, demonstrated their power, and chosen to sleep again. The galaxy would remember this lesson for generations to come. In a distant corner of space, the Sol exclusion zone expanded slightly to include monitoring stations throughout known space. Humanity watched and waited, hoping never again to face the terrible choice between isolation and intervention. The rule had evolved, but its purpose remained unchanged, keeping the galaxy safe from the species capable of ending it.